Hello guys, so this is just going to be a sort of build video slash tutorial slash tips and tricks. So, in case some of you guys don't know, my name is Devin Malmad and I am a sponsored driver by Atomic RC, and I had the privilege of putting together a brand new chassis courtesy of Atomic, and so I thought I'd share my thoughts. So here goes. Okay, so you may have seen in the previous slide, that's just a comparison between the carbon fiber chassis and the aluminum chassis. So this is my second chassis, second Atomic BZ chassis, and for this video, for this build, I went with the aluminum chassis. And this frame is simple. It's just putting on the lower bulkheads, and this is pretty straightforward. Okay, and the next step is to put your ball diffs in together with the eccentric hubs and the upper bulkheads. And this is important because you have to remember the tiny little screw that is included in the screw set goes in from the bottom through the lower bulkheads to secure the eccentric uh, bearing holders. And for this I used the aluminum ones, and they were really good. They just made it a lot easier. I noticed I only had aluminum ones for the rear, and I noticed it was a lot easier to use the aluminum ones in the rear than it was putting the plastic ones in the front. So there you go. So yeah, just next step is to put the motor mount with the with, I guess that's the pulley. Just remember to put the shim where the manual says. Here's a picture, just the shocks, and just heads up, in the video you'll see that I'm using the aluminum hubs front and rear. However, for the surface I race on, RCP, I did a lot of testing and I found that the plastic ones work better. I think that with a little patience and finding the right roll center, which is adjusted by adding shims underneath the pillow balls, um, they would be obviously the same because the roll center would be the same. There'd be no difference. However, the plastic ones are easier, and I don't know. I just felt like it handled a little better. Next step, obviously, put your top deck. It's important when you put the top deck on, you want to loosen all the screws in your bulkhead, the top bulkhead, and on the bottom. You want to then retighten in a cross pattern, and then press down the whole entire chassis on a flat piece of glass and screw everything on the top in a cross pattern. Here is the steering bracket, and once again we use an option part straight out of the box. It's the aluminum steering cranks to give maximum steering throw, and the servo that was used was the Atomic Metal Gear one. And this was pretty straightforward. However, I did differ from the kit build a little bit, whereas I put 0.2 millimeter shims underneath the aluminum cross brace, which connects the front parts of the two steering cranks. And that's just so that I have a little more clearance and everything just goes really smooth. And yeah. And then in the next picture, I think it will just be another picture of the steering assembly. Also, I use the aluminum steering horn, and the benefit of that is not just the aluminum steering horn for durability and precision, 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 sorry, and also for the because it includes these little washers. It's hard to see, but the flat black washers that allow you to tighten the servo straight into the servo mount, and those work really well. Okay, and next step is the steering uh, linkages. Pretty straightforward, as the manual explains. I like to set the car up with a little bit of toe out. I don't know the exact measurement, but I'd assume it's somewhere in the realm of 1.5 to 2 degrees of toe out. That's a good starting point. Yeah, and also the camber arms that I select straight out of the box were the 2 degrees, and this is after a lot of trial and error and testing, I've come across a setup that works pretty well. And in the rear, it's the 1 dot. I think that's 1.5. I'm not entirely certain, but those are the stock rear arms. I do have the option camber arms for the rear, which, remember, the front ones are the standard AMZ length, and the rear ones are the long ones because of the way they offset the what's it called? It's the bulkheads. Excuse me. Okay, that's just with everything installed. Battery, ESC, just missing the motor. Did not have one on hand, so we'll be waiting to put a motor in. But one thing to notice, you may be able to spot it out right now. There's on the front bumper, there's a large piece of tape, and actually underneath that tape is a body clip from an auto scale body. And basically, I just cut the front clip in half, and taking a screw, I screwed it in. I drilled a hole through the clip and through the brace, and then I took that, and then I screwed it into there. And what you want to do that because to provide support, the way that all the front clips, whether it's a standard, auto scale body clip, or it's the one for the Lexan body as I have here, it needs that extra support. So what you do is you take a front clip, which is what I've come to do. I did it the first time around, and I like to do it. I think it worked well, so I did it the second time, and I just covered it with a piece of tape so it looks neatish. Still got to work on tidying everything up a little bit, but when I have finished everything, that will be completed and done properly. Okay. Oh, one thing, if you don't want to cut up a body clip, you can use the pinion remover tool, a little plastic thing that you get with your stock Emerald 3 kits when you buy them. And I noticed that the guys overseas tend to run that, and that seems to work well for them. They're small and they fit perfectly. It's just I didn't have any on hand. I usually throw them away, to be honest, so that's why. And once again, just a different angle to give you an idea. And you can see in the background a wheel from the other car. And here they are, twins. Freshly painted bodies. These are the atomic LTC bodies, Lexan. Important to note that when you cut the body out, you cut along the higher line. So if you have the body in front of you, there's going to be two lines. There's one that would make the body a little bit longer and one that would be shorter. You want to cut along the line that is shortest, and that way you don't really need to do many adjustments to get the right height right. It's just trim it, and then you use the highest hole in the front and the lowest hole in the rear, and that's it. And what else was there? I think that's it in regards to the body. As you can see, I left the rear wings kind of tall. I think that if they're not teching the rear wing length, go ahead and leave it as tall as can be, because it does make the car incredibly stable. And I've found that with this car, the chassis naturally produces so much steering, so much rear grip, that it's unnecessary to take away downforce from the body in order to try and achieve more steering or things of that nature, corner speed, because that can be found in plenty of other places. But having the downforce makes the car easy to drive, and it's just generally helpful. Okay, so once again, different angle, trying it out with the light box here. See if I get some quality pictures. As for setup goes, I think I posted the setup in a previous video. However, I'll repost that. It hasn't really changed. Stock silver springs in the front, the gold springs in the rear. Two camber in the front, the stock camber in the rear. About 2.5 millimeters ride height, 0.5 in the back, droop, 0.5 millimeters droop in the back, and I want to say like 0.3, 0.2 millimeters droop into the front, very little. And it's critical that you use the 30-degree Kyosho tire true to 22.5 if you can get away with it 22.25 or 22 millimeters. Now, I have found that with the Kyosho Radial 30s, so the radial ones, the ones with that look like they have treads in them, they have a little bit more grip even when you chew them flat. So those ones I typically start at 22 millimeters, and those run through really quick. So like I want to say maybe 10 or 15 battery packs at 22, and then you have to switch the tires out because they get kind of very thin, and then they almost pop off. And then in the back, it's the Marca version 1, 10 degrees, always. Those are just the grippiest rear tires available. And if if you have the option, okay, I did a lot of testing today, especially. I found that actually the Kyosho 30 slicks are a little bit better and easier to drive, and they're just as fast because I find they have a little less grip. However, you can true them to 22.5 and not worry about flipping as much, and almost none at all. Especially with if you have the taller wing in the back, it definitely helps. And and you can just drive the car as hard as you want, super easy. And here's the last. This is the end of the video. Here's just the final look. Okay, so there may have been a little jump over there in the video, but just want to wrap things up and say build goes really smoothly. Just make sure that there's no binding anywhere. So this is just like the final wrap up thought. You may experience some binding in the rear toe linkages. What you want to do is just take an exacto knife and remount the inner edge inside the linkage very carefully, very small amount. That might help. Only other binding I would take a look out for is in the steering rack, and it's rather to have a little bit of slop than to have binding, and honestly very little slop in this car to begin with. And that's it. Thanks. Go out there, drive your BZs, let me know how you do, and this has been a build video, and I hope you enjoyed and learned a couple things along the way. Thanks. Bye.